Well, hello everyone, I'm Ben Glass and we're back for another edition of Live Life Big. I'm a practicing personal injury attorney here in Fairfax, Virginia, and it's really neat. I get to interview a lot of very interesting folks, small biz owners, charities, other attorneys in the community, and today we want to welcome to the program Joan Proper. Joan, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Joan is an attorney in Manassas, and she's got a very interesting practice. She helps families whose children have special educational needs. Joan, that's an area that's near and dear to my heart. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in that.
Sure. My background is I went to college to become a teacher. I was a teacher for 9 years, first in a Catholic school in Annandale, and then I moved to Fairfax County Public Schools, where I taught 5th grade for a number of years and spent a lot of time while I was a general education teacher. You really learn a lot about special education based on the needs of the kids in your classroom. I was studying to become a principal, and I was in graduate school, and I took a school law class and really fell in love with the topic and decided to go to law school after that. And I was fortunate to become employed by a firm in Fairfax who primarily does education law and special education law, and so I was able to utilize my background, and kind of it's all blended together really nicely.
Joan, I know in this business that there are questions that parents really should be asking, but sometimes they don't even know enough. As you know, as we've talked about here, they don't even know enough about the process to know to ask this. Can you give us an example of a question that parents should be asking if they have a child that's in the special education program?
Right, definitely. I think as a child gets older, it's really important to take a step back and look at what they've been diagnosed with medically and also what their disability designation is on their IEP. It is not unusual that a child starts out with one disability designation and over time more issues come to light that may change the disability, or you can add to the disability. You can have more than one disability designation. For example, it's very common to see a lot of kids that have been labeled other health impaired due to ADHD, and as they hit middle school, other problems come to light.
So many things change.
Right. Yeah. You may have an underlying learning disability. You may have an underlying mental health issue that qualifies you for an emotional disability. And you can't get the appropriate services and have the appropriate goals worked on if all of the disability designations aren't included. So to have a whole picture of somebody, we want to make sure that those designations are accurate.
You know, one of the things that strikes me is that parents really shouldn't be shy or embarrassed about asking for these services, because particularly in Northern Virginia, the good thing is there are a wealth of resources available. And so I would say, they're there. We pay for them with our taxes, and it's critical. I mean, these years are critical for your children.
Mm-hmm. True, and parents are a lot of times afraid to share information about their child, but not only do you want them to get the services that they need, but if you're talking about a situation where a child is getting in trouble, the school having the information also provides them with a level of legal protection down the road. So that's another reason why it's important to share information.
And I think it's critical now being able to have somebody like you on the team who can help parents, like, okay, this is the box we're playing in. So you're not listening to blogs, you're not listening to chatter of the very well-meaning neighbor down the street or the person who grew up in a different state and who knows all about the system. You really need an advocate, an attorney who understands this Northern Virginia system.
A good example is children will be tested when they are initially found eligible for special education. So the child might be 3 years old or they might be 6 years old and they've had evaluations. The school system every 3 years has to reconsider if they should do updated testing. And it's very common for testing to not be redone.
Everybody's busy.
Everybody's busy, and everybody thinks they understand the child's needs. We all know we think we know where the child's performing. But it's important every couple of years, in my opinion, to have updated evaluations so that you truly know what's my child's reading level, what math skills can they perform, what is their kind of emotional status. So it's important to check in every couple of years and check that testing. I also ask people if their child's ever had any private testing. The school's testing is geared toward what do you need to achieve at school, what do we need to learn at school, what can you do at school. But depending on the level of disability, parents also need to be able to make lifelong planning decisions for their child's needs. And sometimes the private testing is going to be a little more comprehensive and can give you additional information that you may find helpful. It can be expensive. Some insurance providers will take care of that.
And again, I imagine you would be a good resource at least to point parents in the right direction for these types of private testing.
Definitely.
Who are the neuropsychologists who understand child children's brains, things
Right.
like that.
The other thing too is that when the school system evaluates your child with a psychological evaluation or an educational evaluation, that then qualifies you for what's called an independent educational evaluation, where the school system, if you don't agree with the results of the school system, you can ask for an IEE, and the school system then pays for a private provider to do that testing, and parents can select that provider. So there are ways to get testing paid for, whether it's through insurance, the school system, or other means that can be very, very helpful.
Again, I think you've just very clearly demonstrated the need for a leader, a shepherd who can walk you through this process.
One of the simplest things to look at on your child's IEP is what's called the present level of performance, which that's supposed to paint a picture, an accurate picture of your child's, what is the disability, what are the strengths and weaknesses, what do they need to learn how to do, what can they do. That then drives what goals does your child need. What do we hope in a year's time your child is going to be able to do? Many present levels of performance are 1 or 2 sentences. A good one is several pages. And a lot of times I should be able to pick up your child's IEP and know a fair amount about your child when I read it.
Right.
And frequently when I pick them up, I don't know anything. I don't know the disability. I don't know what their true needs are. And so you want to look, does this IEP really describe your child? Then you look at, does this have goals for all areas of need? I think a lot of people think that, well, we'll write in 1 or 2 goals and hopefully it'll work out. But you truly want to see, do we have the goals the child needs for academics, social skills, emotional needs, organization, time on task? There are a million things that you can add in for goals that will really help your child move forward.
How much can an older child be involved in this process of goal setting, identification of accommodations, things like that?
It's a great idea, and most local school systems will ask that a child who's in middle school or high school start coming to the IEP meetings. Depending on the disability, if you're uncomfortable with your child being there, they can come to part of the meeting. They can participate by phone.
Right.
But it's helpful, especially with accommodations, because they know what they can usually, if you push them, articulate what works for them or what doesn't work for them and what they want to use, and that can be very helpful.
Yeah, one of my children, very specifically, she has participated in those meetings, and they ask her, if this sort of events happen and you're feeling a little bit out of control, what do you need to do, and how can you communicate that to a teacher? And then the teachers all need to know, okay, if this happens, then this is the next thing that's going to happen, and it works out. So we have found, fortunately, the school's employees and the systems and the principals we worked at have been pretty good. Now, we're in Northern Virginia, and we probably have some of the top schools in the country here, I think. I know it's not that way across Virginia, unfortunately, and it's certainly not that way across the United States. We feel very fortunate here.
Right. I think the school systems in this area do a phenomenal job of trying to meet kids where they are and providing them the services that they need. Your
main office is located in Manassas. I know you have a satellite meeting place in Fairfax.
Correct.
Are there school counties that you typically cover? Is it all of Virginia? Is it all of Northern Virginia?
Right. I have cases all throughout Northern Virginia. I also can take cases points further away. I really can consult with families by phone. Mm-hmm. So certainly in this day and age, documents can be faxed to me or emailed to me, and I can have appointments by phone. And many IEP meetings or other school meetings, I can be on the phone for those meetings. So it almost doesn't matter where someone is in Virginia. I mean, I can help them.
That's all very cool, because there aren't a lot of lawyers like you in Virginia who understand this process and who are willing to dedicate their time and energy to helping these children. It's a complicated area of law, so I applaud you for not only learning it and understanding it, but being good at it and wanting to really help these families.
Thanks, Mom. One of the questions I get parents who do ask, and some who need to ask, is how is the IEP being implemented, and how is it supposed to be implemented?
Right, we've done all this work to create one.
Right.
Had all these meetings. Now, is it being carried out?
Right. Or how do I do have many people that say, how do I make sure it gets implemented?
Right.
And then that goes back to how is it written? Are the goals measurable? If the IEP goal says my child's reading level will go up by 1 year, but you don't know what the starting reading level is, it's impossible to know where they should be at the end. So you want to make sure that the goals are measurable. In the IEP, it also says how progress is going to be measured. And so you want to make sure there's something in there like data collection or assessments or anecdotal notes, something other than just observation. And then you can ask for those records through something called FERPA, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and the IDEA. You can ask to see copies of the records showing how the goals were implemented and how your child is doing. And that's one of the ways to check.
Again, we've talked about this advocacy. I mean, there certainly isn't a situation where the parent should let the school handle everything and just assume it's all being done right. As good as they are, a lot of the school officials who are dealing with your child and his or her IEP are dealing with a lot of children. So you want to be the squeaky wheel enough. You don't want to be the one that everybody hates when they get the email from you. But it's important that you pay attention and you make everybody stick to the rules.
Right, and that's also important to kind of monitor your own child and see, if you have a child that's coming home and they're all of a sudden distressed every day, it is the right time to ask questions and to figure out what's going on. Or if you feel like your child's losing skills, it's an appropriate time to say, can you sit down and go through with me what's been happening? It's a very hard balance.
Joan, I know people will come to you and have a child they've identified as needing services, but a lot of times they don't even know what questions to ask. Can you give us an example of a question a parent probably should be asking but hasn't yet?
Right. It's really important to determine if you think your child's behavior is interfering with their education. And some behaviors are obvious. If your child's acting aggressive, or kind of lashing out in different ways, verbally or physically, most people can recognize that behavior is interfering with education.
Yeah.
But it's also things like noncompliance. Is your child just sitting at his desk, not doing any work, putting his head down, kind of talking back a little bit, but not so bad that he's getting in trouble? That behavior is interfering with education. And what you can do if your child has an IEP is ask for what's called a functional behavioral assessment, where the school collects data on behavior for a couple of weeks, figures out what targeted behaviors need to be addressed, and then writes what's called a behavior intervention plan. A behavior plan geared toward what are the behaviors, what do we want the new behaviors to be, and how are we going to get him there. And it's really important. That's a great tool that can be used, and many parents have never heard of it.
And that's something that you can, again, through your knowledge and consults with you, and I know stuff that you have at your website, parents can learn about all the things that are available to them, all these tools. Some of them are self-help, but a lot of them just provide a roadmap for parents who are helping their child have the best educational experience they possibly can.
Yes, that's correct.
Joan, let's talk about the child who's in high school and they have an IEP, an individualized education plan. What sort of diploma options do they have? And then tell us what's available after high school.
Right.
In Virginia.
Right, and this is the diploma options are geared. This answer is geared towards Virginia. Virginia just made a significant change in the last year, but most kids you're looking at an advanced diploma or a standard diploma. If you have an IEP, you're still entitled to earn an advanced diploma if you can, a standard diploma. There was a modified diploma where if you could pass the 8th grade math and reading SOLs,
right,
but couldn't pass higher SOLs, you could get a modified diploma. That option has gone away for kids entering high school now. But there's alternative assessments that can be used so that the kids who would have gotten a modified diploma can now still earn a standard diploma. Otherwise, you're
That's
down.
good to know.
Otherwise, you're down to what's called an IEP diploma or a special diploma. IEP diplomas are kids who are on what's called VAP. VAP is for kids with significant cognitive disabilities. So typically kids with an IQ below 70 are on what's called VAP, and their classes are modified down much lower than the general education curriculum. And so sometimes I will see clients that come in and their child has been placed on VAP, but they really should be on track for a standard diploma. Even if they ultimately can't earn a standard diploma, you want them in the classes that they would take if they were on track for a standard diploma. And there are alternative ways they can get to a standard diploma, and that's very important.
A little while earlier, you mentioned accommodations in college. So what is that world all about? How does someone now who's gone through the process, who's gotten any sort of a diploma from a Virginia high school, what's available in the Virginia colleges?
Right. The Virginia colleges actually do a very good job of offering accommodations and services to kids. What's very important, IEPs go away when you graduate from high school, but you can then have a 504 plan in college that continues with you. If you have an IEP, you're also eligible under 504. Colleges put the onus on the student to apply for those services and accommodations, and once you do that, they want to see what accommodations and services have you had in the past, and they will sit down with you and come up with a plan and work with you. But some of the colleges do a phenomenal job of providing a lot of one-on-one, writing services or help for tests or really any accommodations that you've had in the past that you need to continue through college.
Now, do you help with that part too, with the college level?
I can help gear parents and children towards what to do, how to apply, gathering the documentation to put that forth to the college and get what they need.
Okay.
Yes.
Joan, look, it's been fantastic to have you on the program. Again, this is a complicated area of law. You're one of few attorneys in the state who practices in this area. If someone who's watched this now wants to get in contact with you, find out more information about how they could work with you, where do they go?
My phone number is 703-291-6660. And my website, which also has all my contact information, is jproperlaw.com.
Joan, thanks for being on the program.
Thank you so much for having
Fantastic
me.
guest.